I know you said that he's already introduced some bills, and you were telling me a little bit about the most recent bill or the most controversial bill, I guess, he's introduced up until this point.
Yes. A very controversial bill that he introduced was posting the 10 commandments in one room of every public school as a historical document. Now, in the state of North Dakota, that had been the law until about, I think it was the 1980s. And then that was, yeah, it was the 1970s or 1980s. And then there was some kind of lawsuit about it, and then that was taken down. Now, currently, North Dakota does have a law that the 10 Commandments can be put in if the local school board says yes. So far, to my knowledge, that has not happened.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and so just as recently as the '70s or '80s, the Ten Commandments were up in each of somewhere in each of the public school districts. I I remember being at a dinner where Charles Colson spoke, and you may not be familiar with him, but he was part of Watergate, part of the legal counsel team for Richard Nixon when Watergate went down, and he was in jail for a while. And he came to Christ when he was in prison over the whole Watergate issue and started a prison ministry called Prison Fellowship. And later, he did a lot of work, teaching people. He wrote a book with a co-authored a book called "How Now Should We Then Live," and or how now shall we live? And after Francis Schaeffer's book, "How Should We Then Live?" And he talked a lot about the principles of education. He was actually in a school in Chicago, and the superintendent was bemoaning to him all the student on student crime that was taking place in their school. And then he was bragging about removing the 10 commandments from the walls in the schools, and Chuck Colson said, "Well, sometimes when we remove the rules, we have to pay the price." And so I do think there is, it's not such a distant part of our future as a nation that, I mean, as in our culture as a nation, that we did have the 10 commandments up in all of our schools. And like you say, this was as a historical document in North Dakota, but I think that's very interesting.